We are told a simple story about ourselves. We are told that Homo sapiens, us, are the winners, the sole survivors, the pinnacle of a long, brutal, single-elimination tournament called evolution. We are taught that the other branches of the family tree, the Neanderthals, the Homo erectus, were primitive. They were failures. They died out, leaving the world to the only species smart enough to rule it. But this story is a lie. The tree of life is not a straight line. It is a tangled, violent, and mysterious bush. And we are not the only ones who climbed it. New discoveries in genetics have revealed a terrifying truth hidden in our own blood. It is called ghost DNA. Fragments of genetic code found inside modern humans that do not match any known ancestor. Code from species we have never identified. They were not primitive. Some had brains larger than ours. Some lived alongside us until shockingly recent times, and some may have been our greatest enemies. Where did they go? Did we kill them? Did we absorb them? Or are they, in a way, still here? This is 0 Point Lore, and today we are opening the file on the 5 lost human species that science refuses to classify, but that history refuses to forget. Number 1. The architects of the miniature. In 2003, archaeologists on the remote Indonesian island of Flores stumbled upon a cave called Liang Bua. They were looking for evidence of modern human migration. What they found shattered the timeline of biology. They found a skeleton. It was an adult female, but she stood only 1 meter, 3.5 feet tall. Her brain was the size of a grapefruit. At first, the scientific community panicked. They tried to label it as a diseased modern human, a case of microcephaly. But as they found more bones, 9 individuals in total, the truth became undeniable. This was not a disease. This was a species. They named it Homo floresiensis, but the world knows them as the Hobbits. But here is the twist, the 0 point that makes this discovery terrifying. These were not ape-men. Despite their tiny brains, they made sophisticated stone tools. They hunted organized groups. They used fire. They were intelligent. And they were recent. Original dating suggested they vanished only 12,000 years ago. Newer dating pushes this back to 50,000 years, but that is still thousands of years after modern humans arrived in the region. We lived beside them, and the locals, the Nogai people of Flores, have a legend that suggests we did more than just live beside them. They tell stories of the Ebu Gogo, small, hairy, human-like creatures who walked on 2 legs, murmured in a strange language, and stole food. The legends say the Ebu Gogo were real until the villagers exterminated them. Was the discovery in the cave just a fossil, or was it the physical evidence of a genocide committed by our ancestors against the rival species? The hobbits were small, but our next species poses a different question. What happens when a primitive human refuses to die? Number 2. The Red Deer Cave people. The official timeline says that by the end of the last ice age, 11,000 years ago, Homo sapiens was the only human species left on Earth. Neanderthals were gone, Denisovans were gone. We were alone. But in 1979 and again in 1989, bones were found in the Red Deer Cave in China that defied this logic. These skulls did not look like the modern humans who were inventing agriculture at the same time. They looked archaic. They had thick, jutting brow ridges, broad noses, no chins, features that belonged to a species hundreds of thousands of years old. Yet, carbon dating placed them at just 14,000 to 11,000 years ago. This is the fracture point. While humans in the Middle East were building the first temples at Göbekli Tepe, these primitive survivors were still walking the forests of Asia. Science calls them a hybrid, a mix of modern humans and something else, something unknown. Are they a lost branch of Homo erectus that survived the Ice Age? Or are they the result of a desperate interbreeding between the conquerors and the conquered? The Red Deer Cave people proved that our dominance was not immediate. It was a slow, grinding replacement, and they held on until the very end. But what if the lost species wasn't primitive? What if they were better than us? Number 3. The Boskop people. In 1913, in South Africa, farmers found skull fragments that looked human, but wrong. When anthropologists reconstructed them, they were stunned. The average modern human brain is about 1,400 cubic centimeters. The Boskop brain was over 1,800. Some estimates go as high as 1,900. That is a brain 30% larger than yours. If brain size correlates to intelligence, and in primates it often does, then the Boskop people would have had an average IQ of 150, a civilization of geniuses. They had small, childlike faces tucked beneath these massive, bulbous skulls. Neuroscientists who have studied the endocasts, the insides of the skulls, suggest their prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic and planning, was excessively developed. So why aren't they running the world? Why did the big brains vanish, while we, the smaller-brained cousins, survived? This brings us to the terrifying concept of the intelligence trap. Perhaps they were too smart for their own good. A brain that large requires immense energy. It requires a long childhood to develop. It makes childbirth dangerous. And perhaps they were too philosophical to fight. While Homo sapiens were inventing better spears and strategies for war, the Boskop people may have been contemplating the stars. In the brutal logic of evolution, violence often beats intelligence. The Boskop people are a haunting reminder that evolution does not always mean better. Sometimes it just means meaner. From the big brains of Africa, we travel to the elongated skulls of the Americas. We have investigated the Paracas skulls before. We know the official story: craniobinding, artificial deformation. But now we must look at the biology, the code. Number 4. The Paracas anomaly. When you bind a baby's head, you can change the shape. You can make it long, but you cannot change the volume. You cannot force a skull to become 25% larger and 60% heavier than a normal human skull. That is a biological impossibility. But the physical anomalies are just the surface. In 2014, a preliminary genetic study was conducted on samples from these skulls. The results were controversial. They were attacked, but they have never been fully explained away. The geneticist reported finding mitochondrial DNA with mutations unknown in any human, primate, or animal known so far. Let that sink in. Unknown in any primate. This suggests that the Paracas elite, the royals found in these tombs, were not just humans who bound their heads to look special. They bound their heads to look like them, to look like a distinct subspecies that was born that way. Were the Paracas people the refugees of a lost civilization? The demigods described in ancient myths. Their disappearance around 2,000 years ago is abrupt. Did they die out? Or were they hunted down by the local tribes who realized that their gods were made of flesh and blood? And finally, we arrive at the most terrifying file of all. Because this species didn't just have big brains or strange skulls. They had an appetite. Number 5. The Lovelock Giants. The Paiute tribes of Nevada have an oral history that they treat as absolute fact. They speak of a race of ancient enemies called the CTK. They were giants, standing 7 to 8 feet tall. They had flaming red hair, and they were cannibals. The legends say the Paiute tribes united in a desperate war to exterminate them. They cornered the last of the giants in a cave, Lovelock Cave. They piled brush at the entrance and set it on fire. They burned the giants alive. For a century, historians called this a myth, a symbolic story, until 1911. Guano miners digging in Lovelock Cave began to find bones, thousands of artifacts, giant sandals 15 inches long, and skeletons, massive skeletons. But the most chilling detail, the detail that appears in the miners' reports and local newspaper articles from that time, is not the height. It is the jaw. Reports describe skulls with double rows of teeth, hyperdontia, a rare genetic anomaly in modern humans, but apparently a common trait for the CTK. A 7-foot-tall, red-haired, double-toothed predator. So, where are the bones? This is where the story becomes a conspiracy. The bones were reportedly shipped to the Smithsonian Institute. And then, silence. They were never displayed. They were never catalogued. The official response: we have no record of such acquisitions. Did the museum hide the evidence to protect the official timeline of human evolution? Or did they simply lose the proof that we once fought a war against a species of giants and won? The Hobbits, the red deer hybrids, the Boskop geniuses, the Paracas elite, the Lovelock cannibals. They are gone. We are the last ones standing. But why? Was it our intelligence, our adaptability, or was it simply our capacity for violence? We look at our DNA and we see a map, but it is not a map of peaceful evolution. It is a battlefield map, a record of the rivals we outlasted, the cousins we absorbed, and the enemies we destroyed. The missing link isn't missing. It's buried in the ground, and it's flowing in our veins. The question is not, did they exist? The question is, if they were here, and now they are gone, are we the winners of the game? Or are we simply the next in line to be replaced. If you believe that the history of humanity is far stranger than we are told, subscribe to 0 Point Lore. We are digging up the bones that science wants to bury. What do you think happened to the giants of Lovelock or the geniuses of Bosca? Let us know your theory in the comments below. We may have wiped them from the face of the earth, but did they leave a trace behind? Are there clues hiding, not in the ground, but on the ink of our most mysterious ancient maps? Maps that show the world long before we supposedly discovered it. Join us next time as we try to read them.